Hi everyone, welcome to Rational Delusion Podcast. My name is Vale.
And my name is Hazel.
This is our second episode of Rational Delusion Podcast, and I have some things to say about our first episode.
Go ahead.
I did most of the editing for the previous episode, our first episode. So even though at this point, at time of recording, right, none of the episodes are live and none of it have been listened to by anyone yet. But it doesn't mean we don't have any feedback from ourselves to ourselves, Okay, so the very glaring issue for me is that, not issue lah, but one of the things that we didn't do is explain the meaning of the name of our podcast. What does rational delusion mean? And then we also wanted to explain a bit more about why we chose to start the podcast, but we didn't do it. Instead, we delved into who we are, an introduction of who we are as two individual people, but we didn't answer the grand question of, so why did a finance major and a radiation oncology major start a podcast together? Yeah, so that one wasn't really well explained. So maybe we could talk about it. Hazel, do you have any thoughts while listening to the previous episode?
I have some reflections that are not so much of the content, but first I would like to hear about what reflections you have after listening to our first podcast. Maybe you'd like to share first?
All right. Okay, so apart from we forgot to explain the meaning of the podcast, I've already said in the first episode that I feel like when I'm editing it, right, I would come across certain segments that I have trouble expressing expressing accurately what truly is going on in my mind right now. And that will happen a lot. It is borderline annoying, but too bad, it's a podcast. We don't have the resources to adequately research and fine-tune and fact-check our script. In fact, this is quite unscripted. Yeah, so we would expect a lot of that. Yeah, so two things. One of the things is I use the word allotable wrongly. Not in a jarring way, but I said something like, oh, you allocate time, and then after that I described it as allotable time. But the correct word that should be used is allocatable time, because allocatable is a word. Allotable happens to have the same meaning, but it's not the correct word to use, because I was trying to make a word from allocate. Yeah, okay. So this sounds very stupid now that I've said it, but it's okay. It's just something I like to bring up in case I listen to it in the future and I'm like, this person is so stupid. You don't know the word. Okay.
I guess for my I'm not as detail oriented as Vale, so I didn't pay quite a lot of attention to the words I'm used, but definitely I'm sure that I've mispronounced some words and poor sentence structure and all, but as why we going back to the point why we started this podcast is basically like recording our conversations, and in friends conversations is usually in a very chill and relaxed environment, and so this is really all natural, not scripted at all. So I apologize for any poor word use and poor sentence structure. So Vale, back to the reason on why we are starting this podcast.
Yeah, all right. We don't have to worry that much about mispronouncing things, and really, because it is a podcast and we already said in the previous episode that basically this shouldn't be held against us. I feel like we don't really have a very good or concise explanation as for our name, the name of our podcast, but basically we talk about a lot of things and we don't exactly have a particular theme for our podcast. So like a lot of people have very specific themes about, like, they're discussing a TV series or they're discussing a game show or something like that. But we aren't doing that. We are just really having a casual conversation about life. And as Hazel mentioned, it's very unscripted. So I feel like at some point it was established that a lot of our thoughts are very delusional, but yet we try to make sense of it by rationalizing life, which possibly it's going to sound like a very impossible task, but that's what it is. And that's why we name our podcast as such. And that's why we have our logo that reflects as such. Yeah. Anything to add on from you, Hazel?
So you've summed it up very nicely. So as you mentioned, it's a conversation between two friends, and maybe to share a bit background. So off air, Vil and I usually have a very deep and very insightful conversations. So this also kind of sparked the idea of starting a podcast, and hence, yeah, some topics may seem very factual, some topics may seem very wacky. Yes, but yeah, but it's all about us making sense of all the thoughts that are in our head.
Yeah, so basically there's no overarching themes, although we do try to pick topics that interest us to discuss during each episode. Yeah, so this has been quite a fun journey so far, because a podcast it's one of those things that it doesn't take that much effort to produce. But then if you think along the lines like that, right, people tend to underestimate the amount of effort that's required. Sure, it doesn't take as much effort as producing videos, but it still does take a lot of effort, a fair bit of effort. And you have to have the right skill sets, mindset, and technical approach to doing it. So I feel like both of us, we have such skill sets, and we are able to gel together and produce an entertaining-ish piece of work. Yeah.
And I've learned a lot, just a personal thing. I've learned a lot just from creating one podcast. I didn't know all the work and all the things you have to think through before starting a podcast. It's really not as easy as just, picking a mic and start recording your conversations with your friend. Really not as simple as that.
Oh, is it? Did you think that we are just gonna record and that's it?
As in, like, I had a very simple idea in my mind, but I realized that actually a lot of process goes into planning it. Yeah, it's not as simple as what I first thought it would be. But I really learned a lot just from recording one episode. So really excited to see how much we are able to learn and improve when we are recording our 10th episode. How exciting.
Wow, looking that far ahead.
Of course.
All right, so both of us have been taking leaves from work this past week, and for you it has been longer lah. What have you been up to this past week?
Oh, amazing. So very thankful to a certain regulatory body. My industry, we have to take a mandatory compliance leave. And this compliance leave, it is amazing because we are all locked out from all accesses, system accesses and office accesses. So this compliance leave really forces you to rest. So hence, I've been having a pretty long leave of about more than 10 days, including weekends. And I spent a good 75% of it catching up with friends and family. And I just reflected a few nights ago. I realized that I've been packing my days, like almost every day. I have something scheduled, a catch-up schedule or a dinner schedule. So it's been tiring but fun. More on that later. So Vil, how did you spend your annual leave?
So I didn't have the luxury of 2 weeks. I had a few days, and they are adjacent to weekends, and we have public holidays coming up, so that's quite fun. So I went Christmas shopping. So this episode is produced around Christmas, but yeah. So I went Christmas shopping.
Nice.
I feel like these days, right, no one is really celebrating Christmas properly with the pandemic and whatnot, So I realized that my Christmas shopping was pretty rushed. Like, it wasn't effortless lah, but then I did take some time to put in some effort, Yeah, so it doesn't reflect that poorly on my attitude towards gift exchange and gift giving, Yeah, but taking annual leave, right, it's not a regulatory thing that I have to do, but we are encouraged to clear our leaves anyway. So I took leaves for no particular reason. Yeah, so I ended up constantly forgetting that I took leave. And like last week, Friday, I was still checking like this Monday's schedule, and I was still wondering, oh, it's gonna be a busy day. Then my colleague was like telling me, well, you won't be here. So it's a good reminder. Yeah.
I hope you had a good break. And wow, Christmas shopping. Yeah, you are so right. With the pandemic and all, I feel Christmas kind of lose, the Christmas vibe is not as strong this year.
Right.
I hope we can still create our own Christmas vibes. Yeah, I hope everyone create their own Christmas vibes.
In a way, it is what we make of it lah. So we gotta approach it with a good attitude. I mean, that's mental resilience at play. We have to try and write the good in our good life.
Wow, smooth, very nicely linking our first podcast topic.
That
Okay.
slid in so naturally. Yeah. So sounds like you had a really productive block leave or annual leave period. Yeah, you managed to catch up with all your friends, and I'm sure you spent like quality time with all your friends and like tried something new, eat out and stuff like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes, I did. So basically, I started the whole compliance leave with the mindset like, how often do you get such a long leave, and you actually have all your work access disabled. So I wanted to maximize every single day of my leave, work hard, play harder, right? So in the end,
Yeah.
it comes to a point where I think halfway through my compliance leave, I start to reflect. I start to feel a bit exhausted, and then I reflected on why do I feel so tired? Like, isn't the week supposed to feel more light and more relaxed than at work? And then I realized that there's just so many things I wanted to do, and I started the block leave thinking like yeah, I'm really gonna maximize the whole day. I had a list of things that I want to complete, and then just like
Wow.
work, I was checking off this list as if it was a work to-do list. And not that it's toxic, it's just that I didn't quite balance. Yeah, I didn't. So ironically, block leave is supposed for me to rest, right? Looking at the checklist that I've written of all the things that I wanted to complete during this block leave, there is no single checklist with the word rest, and there's no
Oh.
single checkbox with the word rest on it. I have
Oh.
not scheduled any rest day. So basically, I've just scheduled my whole block leave without any rest. And good thing I realized it early, but a little too late as well. I'm now left with like 1 or 2 days for myself, and this is when I realized the importance of like as much as you want to work hard and play harder, you really got to schedule rest. Yeah,
Mm.
although it might sound intuitive, but at least for me, when I schedule what I want to complete in this block leave, I didn't schedule in rest at all. Yes.
Yeah. Oh no. Sounds terrible. I mean, like, I'm glad you got time to do other things because I
Hmm.
agree with what you've mentioned that you don't get such an opportunity all the time or
Yes.
very often. So, in a way, if you look at life as a series of cups or buckets that you need to fill with water, so now you are filling up the social bucket, right? And then previously, of course, you had a bucket of work that you need to fill up with water as well, but you only have a limited amount of water. I don't know if this analogy makes sense, but yeah, something like that. But then, yeah, don't forget that you have a bucket labeled self-care as well. So for me, personally, for me,
Hmm.
I know my life is pretty unconventional because I used to be like you. I would jam pack every
Hmm.
day when I was in school. And so back when I was in university, I had the opportunity to really schedule my time. I had a lot of free time. And because my schedule was a bit more sparse, especially towards the later years. So for example, in one day, I could have only have lessons for 3 hours, for example. Yeah, then I could have lunch afterwards, then do some other activity, then after that have dinner. I don't mind jam packing my entire day to do things and to be out and about basically. Yeah, and partly it's because I don't have other commitments as well. Single, don't really need to spend time with anyone. Yeah, so I like to spend time with all my friends and like really catch up. Yeah. And in the end, right, I don't really feel that drained. Like, of course, I feel physically tired, but mentally, I feel fine. And it's a system that works for me. But I totally acknowledge and I know that there are people out there who need their alone time. So it's very important to prioritize your bucket of self-care and you need to fill it up with water. And it has to be filled all the time. It's not like your social bucket that can be periodically like, oh, maybe work is getting too intense. You can afford to drain out from your social bucket sometimes. But if you compromise your self-care bucket too much, you would die. So that's really important. You need to know. Yeah. So I'm glad you
Yes.
realized. I'm glad you realized, and maybe you can make the rest of your compliance leave worthwhile by just laying in bed doing nothing. That's totally fine too.
Yep, it wasn't on my checklist, but I guess I really needed that. going back to your bucket analogy, which is very interesting, and also you touched about the concept of extroversion and introversion, where you're an extrovert and spending time with people actually refuels your social battery. But for introverts like myself, spending time with friends and family is actually costing us a bit of our social battery. So just wanna share one of our interesting things. So for anyone who have block leave in future, as fun and fulfilling as it is, right? Rest is really very important, because right after your block leave, you're actually going back to work. So it doesn't make sense if you spend your block leave living it up, maximizing your social life, and then going back to work feeling drained instead of refreshed. So
Yeah.
remember to schedule rest in your checklist and be built for the long run.
Would you
If that makes sense.
Would you put that item on your checklist though, like an explicit like checklist for like rest? Actually, I feel like when you were mentioning just now, right, like you're checking off items in the checklist, it kind of sounded like work. So maybe that's why like it might get overwhelming, like as you're
Yes,
spending each
exactly.
day, yeah, then it's like you're checking off items as though it's a work list or task list. Yeah. But
Exactly.
yeah. It's important to schedule rest, but would you actually put an item, like a bullet point, like to rest? Because that seems kind of pointless. I mean, you would carve out some time for it, but does it have to be an explicit item?
I would say it wouldn't be an explicit item where I block off, like I schedule, remember the rest during this hour, not so detailed. But perhaps like if I know I'm gonna be spending the whole day, I'm gonna be out till late at night, probably the next day, all the way until morning and early afternoon, I will try not to schedule anything else, because I know I'll be spending the whole day out the previous day. I will probably need more time to refuel my social battery. So basically, the way that I've scheduled or even approach the mindset that I have when I started my block leave is I treated this whole block leave thing as a project.
Oh my
And
God.
hence rest was the non-office hour. Rest was literally, late at night.
Right, when you are sleeping, like physical rest.
Yes, and I make sure like during my waking hours is jam-packed. I didn't put in any like buffer at all.
No. Okay,
Yeah,
so
all
maybe
in the essence of maximizing my time. Yeah, you will actually feel very exhausted, for all the introverts out there who can relate.
Yeah, yes, I do know of this dichotomy that we have. Some people are more extroverted, some people are more introverted, and there's nothing wrong with that. We just got to know how to live life with our personality matrices. Right, so maybe you do need an actual item on your checklist. Maybe not just
From the looks of it, I guess so.
yeah, no, but maybe, right? It shouldn't be ambiguous like rest. So it shouldn't even be free time. You need to block out that time. So let's say you have a particularly hectic day, your next morning better be labeled self-care morning. And no one is allowed to remove or touch that. No, nothing barring an emergency, right? You're not allowed to. No one is supposed to schedule time with you during that morning because you need that morning. Yeah.
I like that. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's
How
self-care
how
time.
funny, right? Like, yeah, exactly. How funny. Something so simple as and basic, like the premise that you should use your block leave for rest, something so simple, but yet that was the last thing that I put in my checklist.
Yeah, but to be fair, everyone would think the same thing about a block leave. No one would think about resting at first. Everyone would think about, oh, I need to use this time to catch up with friends. I need to use this time to work on my other projects that I've been neglecting. It may be a sign that we tend to work on the things that we neglect during our working hours.
Rest.
Yeah, so like we tend to like overcompensate by like, oh, now I need to meet all my friends, and then then we end up neglecting ourselves because the telltale signs of you needing self-care, they always come too late. they come when
Yes.
they come when it's kind of too late already and the symptoms are setting in full swing and you need to deal with that. And if you still haven't cleared your schedule by then, right, oh my God, all the best to you. You need to deal with that and you're spiraling mind. And so it's important, prioritize self-care. Yeah.
Yes, agree. Totally agree. Self-care is very, very important. Although it may seem something so simple and so ordinary, it's actually really the things that matter. And a food for thought. So, on the first day of my block leave, my sister actually asked, "So how do you plan your block leave?" I was so excited. I was like, "Okay, Monday I'm gonna do this. Tuesday I'm gonna do this," and she went to tell me like, "Maybe you need to start reflecting on your work. Is your work is actually eating a lot of your personal time that you need this block leave to pack all the things that you ever want to do that work doesn't leave you time to do." So food for thought,
Mm,
guys.
yeah. Okay, lah. This is good advice for others who are taking a huge portion of leave or vacation. Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be exciting as vacations start to become more of a possibility in the future. Crossing
Oh yes,
fingers, hopeful.
yes, we can't wait to travel.
Can't wait. All right. Anyway, so I want to bring your attention to this article. This not article. They posts, Instagram post by the Woke SalaryMan. So I think it came out yesterday or the day before. Yeah. So this is about the notion of feeling guilty for resting, and I know you didn't explicitly express guilt lah, but it just didn't occur to most of us. Yeah. So some people actually have the opposite problem. Like maybe they explicitly schedule a few days to rest and to do nothing. And that's when the guilt will hit them because they've been so up and running for the rest of the year that maybe their brain just feels like, oh my God, this is wrong to do nothing. Yeah. So maybe we need to do it in moderation. Like you can't, it's not healthy to like rest like an entire week, for example. Perhaps. Yeah.
Oh my, this is so relatable. So we will insert a link to this post. The first picture just hit home.
Oh no. Okay,
Yes.
don't get depressed on air. Don't cry. Feel free to cry if you have to, but then like I hope it doesn't happen.
Okay, okay. I'll keep that in mind. So, linking to the post that Vil just mentioned. So, if you click on the link, the first picture actually has a caption that says, "I feel guilty about resting."
Why
I
do you
can
stop
relate
there?
to that.
Why do you stop there?
And it's a problem. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, I feel guilty about resting. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this my confession podcast? Okay. I feel guilty about resting and it's a problem.
Mm.
So, Bill, do we like to take us through the very interesting comic?
Okay, so I haven't gone through this in detail yet, but basically that's the gist of it. So I feel like for the rest of the year, most of us, especially laborers who work for someone or an organization, we tend to have to keep working and we have to keep responding to texts and emails after hours as well. So that gives our brain the kind of environment that our brain lives in. It is expected that this person, you are going to be on the ball most of the time. So when you explicitly and intentionally schedule a period of time to do nothing for 2 weeks, for example, and if you really end up doing nothing and lying on the bed and mindlessly watching Netflix movies one after the other, like some part of our stupid monkey brains would go into overdrive and then it would go into this sense of guilt that this isn't right. I should be doing something. I should be up and running. I should be responding to emails and maximizing my profits, revenue, whatever. Yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. And of course, the post by the Woke Salaryman, they go into more detail about how strategies that people use to solve these feelings, lah. Yeah, to resolve these feelings of guilt. I don't know who the author is, but the Woke Salaryman, I know there are two guys, and this guy, he's sharing a personal recount of what it feels like to have this guilt haunting him as he is going through his downtime. So he feels like it's a lose-lose situation because now that he has the opportunity to go for that break, right? But he is not resting properly because he is being haunted by that guilt. Yeah, basically that's the gist of this.
Oh wow, okay, very nicely summed up of the comic strip. I think everyone, if you ever feel, the slightest bit of burnout, just read the article. It's a good is a good food for thought. I believe, like from what I observe, most people within my social circle do have at certain point in time feel guilty about resting. Actually, in university, I've already noticed some guilt when I'm actually taking a break instead of mugging hard for a finals.
Oh my God,
And
right.
yes, this is very real for me. And now that I'm working, I feel that I have to earn rest to not feel guilty. So if I were to allow myself to, let's say, take a nap in the afternoon during lunch hour, I have to make sure that the whatever work I produce in the morning will be able to justify the nap. Even though I
What?
may be
No.
super tired, and a power nap in at lunch hour would make me more productive, I'll actually feel guilty for taking, too long and extended breaks if the work that I produced before that doesn't justify this break. And it's a very unhealthy mindset, which I am
Right,
learning to
right.
overcome. Do you
Right.
feel that way too?
Yeah, I actually agree with you because it's a very natural conclusion. Like life is not a give and take. Like it doesn't mean like you have to clock in a certain number of hours or a certain amount of work to justify your resting. We don't live to rest. We don't live to produce either. So it's not very sensible to benchmark like, oh, I can only rest after I complete a certain amount of work. But I feel like there is a distinction here between school time, university, and work because university, it feels like you have an end goal, a very clear one, an uncomfortably clear end goal. And your entire existence in university life is to try and make the best of it. And you have to strive to achieve the best results by the time your finals come around. And that is scary because it seems like the more effort you put in, theoretically, you should be able to achieve better results. And hence, you should put in maximal effort to achieve maximal results. But it's different because in work, it's not the case. This is not the case most of the time. There is no upper limit of results that you can achieve because I'm sure you could do more work. I'm sure you could tidy up that draft even more, but at some point you have to cut it. You have to put an end to it and like say that you are done with it. So like there is a bit of a difference lah. And I feel like uni is training our brains to get used to the cycle that work will eventually give us, but it's of course it's not the same. Yeah, so apart from scheduling time to actually rest, we all need to get comfortable with the idea of resting as well. What should indicate that you need rest is your own body and your own well-being, not the amount of work that you have completed, not other people's impression of you, not your boss's approval of whether you're going on break or not, because that's not relevant. What's relevant is that you need to keep your well-being up. Yeah, I feel like
Yes,
mm,
agree.
so I was gonna say, I feel like this may be a typical Singaporean or maybe some specific countries problem, like a problem that is quite exclusive to some countries. We tend to be overworkers. Yeah, because I know places like maybe some places in Australia. So if you fly into Australia and your flight touches down after 5 p.m. local time, the entire airport, the retail section is closed. They are very strict about not working beyond their office hours, for example. But this, who am I to say? I'm not an Australian. I don't live there. This may be inaccurate, but that's the vibe that I get lah. That other countries' citizens seem to have a better grasp of this than we do. Yeah.
Yeah, so according to one of the website, I can't remember which website, Singapore, South Korea, and Japan are some of the countries with the longest working hours.
Oh
I
no.
remember Singapore ranked pretty high, yes,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of working hours. And I would like to bring up the point that I feel that comparing yourself to others also makes you spiral down into this guilt trap. So sometimes you see why some of your colleagues are able to put in 12 hours and 13 hours, and they feel like they could go on all night. So, and why can't you? Then you feel like, am I weak? Am I not competent
No.
enough? So I guess when it comes to rest, right? And no, not just race. When it comes to anything in life, don't compare yourself to others.
Yeah,
Everyone is built different. Everyone runs on their own timeline, speed, and efficiency.
very well said. Yeah, after all, everyone is their own version of themselves. You don't have to. What is comparing even? Like, comparison is such a flawed approach to try to benchmark yourself. Yeah.
Yes, it's easier said than done. I'm sure like since young we've been told like stop comparing yourself to others is unhealthy. What they want might not be what you want in life. It's so easy, but it's really, really hard to stop comparing. Like even till
Yeah.
now, I still find myself struggling with, to this toxic comparison game.
It's okay. The first step of solving this problem is identifying that it is a problem. And since we have already acknowledged that, yeah, we're going through this, we will slowly inch towards a better life. That is, we will try to be more conscious like, when we end up unconsciously comparing ourselves to others, then like, hold that thought. It is toxic behavior. Stop this right now. Yeah.
Wow, I like how you're so positive about it. Yes, I need more of such positive vibes in the
I
new
mean,
year.
we can only get better at living life, although life is the single most difficult thing you ever have to do.
Single most difficult thing. Truly agree.
Mm.
So, Vil, have you had any instances where you beat yourself up for resting too much and not hustling hard enough?
Well, I sound very conceited if I say no.
No, I would think that you got this, you are very at peace and you have very good time management, I would suppose.
No, it doesn't mean I have everything together, like we still, things change and like in an ever-changing world, like everything is changing all the time. Everything is very uncertain. Okay, I feel like I don't know if I was on the verge of burnout or not. Yeah, I don't think so. But basically, my university life was very packed. So like every day, I would usually have something on every day. And of course, then my paradigm, my mindset for resting would only be physical resting, like sleeping. So I would sleep every day still, that's a given. So that to me was enough for rest. So I don't know how sustainable it was. I managed to make it work. And then COVID struck. So basically, it removed a lot of things from my calendar. Suddenly, we had a lot of free time. And I expected myself to be in a bit of a struggle to like, what should I do with all this newfound time? But surprisingly, right, I was very receptive towards it. Of course, this doesn't indicate that, oh yeah, it may be the break that I needed all along. It doesn't indicate that because I don't think that's very true. But then again, right, I wasn't averse to resting, which I thought I was initially. Yeah, like I didn't like to have periods of unscheduled time because I feel like it could have been like the efficiency and productivity could have been maximized elsewhere. And it's a very realistic way, a materialistic way of looking at life. Yeah, but that was me in university. And then COVID. So a lot of things got wiped out from my calendar and I was okay with it. So I don't know what to make of this, but that's just something I want to share. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Coming from you're an extrovert, and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you feel at peace at it is pretty surprising. I've seen like my extroverted friends going all crazy during lockdown period, quarantine, starting all the Netflix party and like a house party, such stuff. Wow, it's pretty rare to hear that you didn't go crazy like most of my extroverted friends.
Oh yeah, sure. But I do crave like social companionship lah. But I feel like technology has done a pretty good job at connecting all of us. Of course, it's not face to face, but we do have texts, like we do have conversations with each other through text and occasionally calls. So it wasn't that bad actually. Yeah. So another point, are you working on new articles?
Yes, I am. I have actually just published an article last night. Yeah, so this
Wow.
article was actually inspired by my reflection of how I have spent my blog leave. So it was actually a mixture of how I spent my block leave, as well as the days leading to my block leave. So just a bit of background. The days leading to my block leave was actually pretty hectic. I had to work quite long hours, and actually just a few weeks before block leave, I think I felt a little burnt out. So that was my
Oh
inspiration for this
no.
article.
All
And
right.
I basically wrote more about how to not lose the spark within yourself. And this spark is the drive and the hunger to want to learn, and as well as our own curiosity. So not
Okay.
gonna give any spoilers. Perhaps we can discuss this in the third podcast.
Yeah, in the next
In
episode. Yeah.
Yes, perhaps we can discuss more about this. It's something about something related to work-life balance, but I decided to write it in a different way, a more personal take, and also referencing to some of the videos regarding millennial burnout. So do take a look if you're free. So Will, have you been working on any new articles?
I kind of am. I don't have anything up yet, but I did tidy up my site, Messy Workings. So
Oh, nice.
maybe I can talk more about Messy Workings as a whole because I don't think we touched upon that last episode.
Mm,
We mostly talked about your site and what you write about, which is very insightful, and I feel like we need more of that insight in our lives lah. Yeah.
yes.
So about my site, about writing articles,
Mm.
I stumbled upon this quote that I feel like is very important. Okay, let me pull it up to make sure that it's accurate.
They got
Okay,
it accurately, right?
yeah, quotes are important. Okay, so previously, right, you mentioned something like uh, a huge stumbling block could be something like you can't see the end goal, you can't see the end in mind, the end product. You don't have a clear picture of what the end product might look like. But that's not absolutely necessary, I'd say. Okay, so the quote that I stumbled upon is every first draft is perfect because the purpose of the first draft is simply to exist.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
To exist.
That is very true,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
All right, that's just something I stumbled upon that I wanted to bring it up to you as an inspiration. So you keep writing because don't underestimate the power of first drafts because they are a starting point and they are a nucleation site. Then we can have something to work on even more. From the creation of your first draft onwards, right? Thereafter, right, it's no longer creation anymore. It's more of like refinement. And I don't know if we talked about creator versus refiner dichotomy before, but I am more of a refiner. I can refine much better than I can create and synthesize new ideas out of nowhere. So I would really prefer to refine. So a huge part, I would attribute like 50% of like what my project is gonna be, right? If I manage to get a first draft going, there's a 50% likelihood that it would take off because after that, it's just refinement. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Oh,
So we went off topic a bit. Okay. Let me share more about Messy Workings, my site. So my more recent articles have been schoolwork and notes, but recently, like within the past week, I went back and revised the entire site. I removed about 50 articles. So it's a bit more balanced now. The website has always meant to be like, it always meant to be a good mix of recreational math and schoolwork. Yeah, so I have a few more topics about math that I'm working on. And honestly, it feels really nice to work on this again. So I think it always gets me to think about like how best it is to present the information in an understandable way. Yeah, as educators, we got to think about like abstraction of information and the necessary lies and oversimplification that comes with conveying a concept simply. Yeah, so that's basically most of my articles on messy workings is like that. Yeah.
oh, wow. Very interesting. You remove 50 articles.
They are all school notes and all very not relevant. Yeah, yes, 50. There are I mean
I see.
I didn't delete them. I reverted them back to draft. So it's still there, but it's not visible anymore. Yeah.
I see. I see. Oh, interesting. Oh, I find that the quote that you shared initially
Mm-hmm.
is a very good reminder to myself Because fun fact, the article that I just published last night, I've actually started working on it for many days. It's one of the articles that I've procrastinated the longest in publishing. And the
Wow.
main point, so every article that I write, I will try to have an angle and a main point. I've actually pivoted this main point 4 times, and I don't know how many
Wow.
times I've rewrite this article to the point that I'm so frustrated with myself. Yes,
You
so
know, that itself could be a very interesting story, but I haven't read that article yet. So we set it as homework for me mostly and for our listeners, but for me, so we can discuss more about that article on the next episode of this podcast. And then maybe you can share more about how you managed to pivot the strategic direction of the article 4 times. That's amazing.
it's not a very fun process. I would say it was I keep having, what they term as writer's block, and partially I was being
Okay.
too perfectionistic in my writing, I guess.
Right.
I think this is something I really need to work on. So a good friend of mine actually shared this advice with me that said, like, don't write as if you want to be read. Wait, is that a good
Mm.
advice?
Yeah, sure. It depends. It
Yeah.
depends on what you're writing for. If you're a newspaper journalist or an editor, then probably that's not the best advice because people are going to read what you write.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
But
Yeah. So
for most of what you and I do, right, this is perfectly fine. We don't write with the intention that like this is going to be read by hundreds or millions of people. We just write. I feel like the main strategy for our writing, like for our work, right, can be summed up as like it's a repository. It's a personal repository of our own thoughts and collections of things that we find interesting. Yeah, so there's no obligation for this to be captivating or have a direction or to be monetizable. Yeah, these are things that businesses and corporations have to worry about, but we don't have to do that. So that's an
oh,
opportunity.
that's true. That's true.
Mm,
I like the personal repository idea. That's true. I can
mm.
share more about how I pivoted the article, but it has been one of the article that I have spent way too much time rewriting
Oh,
and procrastinating it to be published. So, but it really shed some light. This is something I need to work on.
okay, okay. So hopefully with these inspirations, like it helps you to produce more first drafts. It helps you to have a earlier deadline. I don't know. I mean, a deadline is, we don't have deadlines lah, but a personal deadline can help you to churn it out faster. Yeah, and
Yes,
don't compromise quality
mm,
as well.
yeah, I really like the concept about like you are more of a refiner than a creator. It's very, very interesting. It will be definitely something I want to look into, I want to read more about. And
Mm-hmm.
definitely I need to check out your website. Yes.
uh,
Removing 50 articles, I find it, wow, amazing. That is some thorough cleaning.
Interesting that you choose this point to check out my website thoroughly after I've purged like 50 articles. Don't worry, I will post some new articles, then I'll tell you to take a look.
All right, sure, sure. Do share the link in,
Of
yeah,
course, of course. All right.
yeah.
Moving on. I have a bit of a personal rant. I have a few personal rants.
Sure. Go
I feel
ahead,
like
go
what
ahead.
I feel like one of the things that like we're gonna have trouble with is like publicizing the podcast. Like if people ask like, oh, you have a podcast, what is this about? Then I can't give an answer, but then an answer could probably be something like, oh, it's about rants because I rant a lot about this. I feel like I'm gonna rant a lot, like from here onwards. Okay, so have you ever gotten like spam calls or like calls like of people trying to sell you stuff, like phone calls that they would actually disrupt your life, your conversation? Have you
Oh,
had those?
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Almost once every week.
So frequently.
I find it so, like, since COVID strike, there's a wave of like scam calls and cold calling. I feel like now the frequency is just more than before.
Oh my God. Okay. So I've been so annoyed at all these scam calls, and it indicates a deeper and underlying issue, I guess, within me that I just don't like phone calls in general because my attitude towards phone calls is very extreme. It indicates to me that you need my attention right now. So if I receive a phone call from you, I would probably be like, oh my God, are you dying? Do I need to drop everything and go to you right now? because why else would you be calling me? Right? Anything else, everyone else would just text. And text messages are very easy to convey whatever you need to say. So I find it very annoying. A lot of salespeople have a protocol that they will only ever call you. I find that annoying lah, because of course, calling is a more effective way to speak to a person. After all, you are demanding their synchronous attention right now. And they have to be there with you and to talk about it. You can't, like, for example, this podcast is a call. We can't do both our parts asynchronously, like at different times. That would not work. Yeah, so I took a radical move and I blocked. There is a feature on my phone that allows me to block all unknown and unsaved numbers. I mean, it was just for a few weeks.
Wow.
A few weeks ago lah. So I don't know how effective it is. I don't feel a drastic revelation like I should have done this years ago. I don't feel that lah, but I feel like I'm slowly inching towards what I want to be lah, which is to not be bothered by calls from this. Of course, this comes with different other issues. This brings up new issues because sometimes there would be people that need to contact you, like for delivery, for example. Today, I had my coffee delivery. The delivery person used to call me when they're reaching, but he didn't, even though I temporarily lifted the option to block unknown numbers for today only. Yeah. Basically, when I'm placing the order online, right, there's no way to indicate not to call me upon reaching because most of my friends, they probably know not to call me. And like, if you want to contact me, there are better ways. There are other avenues to get to me, and calling is just not one of them. Yeah, so there's no way to indicate on the website not to call me upon reaching, but he didn't. He just sent an SMS. I went out and received the order, and it was seamless. And of course, after that, I immediately reinstated blocking unknown numbers. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be life-changing enough. Yeah, so another issue that I think about is that what if there's an emergency and then someone who needs to contact me lost their phone and they're using someone else's phone to contact me, then it wouldn't be able to get through because it's an unknown number, right? Then can you just WhatsApp call me or Telegram call me? So basically, I feel like I have to let all my close friends know that calling me is basically not an option anymore. I mean, I will save most of the numbers of the people I interact with on a day-to-day basis. So calling me is basically not an option for people who don't know me. I feel like the entire call ecosystem is tainted with so many scam callers or sales callers, flying around trying to hit a target of some, it's annoying lah. So yeah, I've decided to just remove myself from the equation. Yeah.
Wow, very, very radical
Yes,
move.
it is.
A very unique move, but I can see how it is going to be efficient for your day-to-day life. Yeah, let's just hope that anyone who has to contact you urgently, they are saved in your contacts.
Yeah, I mean, they will it's an explicit thing. I mean, I have to mentally allow these people to contact me. It's like giving away a power, I am allowing you I'm granting you the ability to contact me at any time. Yeah, and I'm trusting you not to abuse it. If not, I'll remove your number. I don't know.
Oh, wow, interesting. So will only allow anyone to reach him through his phone only if he's alive in that situation. Is that correct?
Yeah, but doesn't everyone feel like that already? Like, I know mentally, I know it's probably not an emergency, but I would still have a slight surge of adrenaline, like, oh, someone's calling me. They demand my attention right now. Like, what's happening, And it's a very disruptive thing to have. Yeah, and then it's even more annoying when it's a scam call or a sales call. Oh my God. Yeah, so
I see your point. It is indeed disruptive, and I guess last time I do get adrenaline, but I actually have a different take from you.
Okay.
I think this is okay. My next statement is gonna expose me to more scam callers. The fact is, I actually answer all calls if I happen to see them.
Terrible.
Yes.
Terrible. Really?
So I
Okay,
have
wait,
my
wait. Okay, wait. Before
yes.
you continue on further, I want to ask, what proportion of the calls you receive are actually from someone you know? Is it like a
Oh,
huge proportion?
I can say no, it's not a huge proportion. It's actually a very small percentage, but
Mm,
I
okay.
still answer every call that if I happen to see your call, whatever number it is, I'll still answer. Unless it's an overseas number, then I will hesitate for probably 2 seconds and see if it's and consider from there. But if it's a Singapore number, I will answer every number.
Oh
Yes.
my. Okay.
Yes, and the reason being is because so unlike if I'm not very strict if someone calls me through my phone, as long as it's convenient. If I can answer your call, means it's pretty convenient for me to talk at that moment. I'm not much of a texter. I think most of the people that are close to me will be able to attest that my response rate is not the best. So sometimes they will just give up on waiting for a response and just call me instead. And that's why I'm happy to answer any call, even if it's not live and then even if you're just asking me to confirm like, hey, so are we gonna meet at 7? I'm happy to take the call and give you the confirmation because I'm really not much of a texter. I don't check my phone often enough. So hearing
Okay.
what the approach that you take to filter out your calls and make your day more efficient, yeah, I actually see it working. I can actually understand. Something I should consider.
No, but you just said calling you is a good way to reach you.
Yeah, it does disrupt. So let's say if I'm doing my work, right? Yes, calling me is actually the best way to reach me. But I do agree that from a selfish perspective, it does disrupt my train of thought. And
Mm.
if I am caught in like a bad day or I just completed some urgent work and my adrenaline and frustration is all time high, if I happen to pick up the phone, I'm not the nicest person on the other end.
Oh, all right,
Yeah,
all
so
right.
just a heads up to friends listening out there. If you are friends of Will, don't call him unless you're dying. If you're friends
Yep,
of Hazel, if she didn't reply your text, she's not dead. Just pick up the phone.
she's not dead. Okay,
Yes,
yes. Call
very good
Hazel.
summary.
Okay, good, good. I will make a note also because I didn't know, but I'll call you more often.
Yes, sure. I'm not annoyed. I'm always happy to answer call if I see it.
Mm,
If I didn't answer your call, it's really for legitimate reasons. I'm probably not with my phone.
I believe you. All right.
Yeah,
Okay, that's basically one of my rants. Would you like to hear
very
another rant?
interesting rant. Yeah, sure.
Oh my
Very
God.
interesting rant. Very interesting solutions. Sorry,
First
you were
world,
saying?
first world Singaporean problems. This podcast is first world Singaporean problems. That's what it is. You know, like we don't have a theme, but this is like okay.
We could title it "Don't Call Bill."
Oh my God.
That will send a message.
Our future listeners will know if that ends up becoming the title of this episode. We don't know yet. Yeah, but all right.
Okay.
Okay, very cool.
Moving
Okay,
on to
so
your second rant.
I'm sorry, I really sound like a grumpy old man. Yeah.
No, you gotta let it out.
Okay, but this next complaint is more of a technology-centric solution. It's more of a technology-centric issue. Okay, so a bit of preface. In this country, we have a few means of paying for something. There's a lot of e-commerce options these days, like GrabPay, FavePay, I don't know, whatever Panda Pay that's out there. Yeah. And then I'm not really informed for these e-commerce options because I don't use them. But there are the more mainstream services like credit card, debit card. So if you use a debit card, and there's an option for PayWave, you can actually hook it up to your phone or smartwatch or other device and use NFC near field connection to pay. And you just need to tap your watch, and it's very convenient. My stance, my personal stance, although I do acknowledge that there are a lot of other stores that are not doing this yet, my stance is that no one should be using cash payment anymore because cash is really finicky. You have to fiddle with, it's as good as paying with bolts, nuts, and screws, you know, like all the metal trinkets like coins, and then they can drop and then they can get everywhere and they can get lost in your bag and wallet. And yeah, so it is so not worth it to carry cash on you anymore. Everyone should have virtual payment methods, but we are not there yet as a society. I understand that. but it's all right. So everyone needs to set up their own system and contingencies such that you can still function even when you don't have cash on you. Yeah, I guess this should be the law. Okay, that's a bit extreme, but okay, this is not even my complaint yet. So what bothers me is a few days ago, I was at a store. I won't mention what store it is, but they had signages boasting that they had contactless payment. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, let's go for that. But it turns out they don't have anything. They have cash and nets. And you
How
know
is
the
that
way,
contactless?
yeah, the way
Sorry.
you know that nets works, right, is that you still have to insert your card and key in your PIN number. It doesn't work like PayWave, which is magic, but nets is not magic. You still have to, essentially, the point of sale terminal becomes an ATM and you use it to withdraw cash and make the payment. That's the way I look at it now. And honestly, I haven't been to an ATM in months. It shouldn't be necessary even, yeah. But yeah, it would be okay if the signages had put cash on nets only. Yeah, but what bothers me is that the store is trying to pretend that it's something it's not. What contactless? Which part of nets is contactless? Okay, yeah, that's basically my rant about this. Yeah.
Okay, perhaps wow, I can totally relate. Anyway, your first opening of your second rant, which is I think people should stop paying in cash. I had an internal gaps like, oh, what? Okay, but
You don't
now
agree?
that you've mentioned,
Okay.
uh okay, from the merchant's point of view, um cash is actually one of the better way to one of the preferred modes, I would think,
I
even
get
though it's
you.
very inconvenient.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like so I'm trying to think from like this small bakery that's near my place. So they
Ah,
only accept nets if you spend a minimum of $15. And
mm,
having done a school project regarding like, introducing net system to small businesses, there's
mm.
actually a service fee that they have to
Yeah,
pay if they were
yes.
to allow it.
Yeah,
Yes, and
I'm
if you
aware of that.
allow PayWave, exactly. So if you allow PayWave, Masters or Visa, I believe there is also a service fee that goes by a percentage of the
Mm-hmm,
transactions.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, so
mm-hmm.
I guess this is a hurdle for small businesses, and hence they would like only allow cash payment, which is very inconvenient on users end, because I
Yeah.
do agree that now ATMs are getting lesser and lesser, and also they are not
Oh, is
at
it?
the most convenient locations. I may be wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
I personally find that yeah, ATMs are not as convenient, and I don't see them as frequent. Maybe it's the places that I go to. Yeah,
Nah,
and
I feel like there's
I
no way
really
you could be
yes.
wrong. Yeah, you must be right about this because economics works like this. If less people pay cash now compared to like a few years ago, lah, of course the bank is gonna shut down some ATMs. Yeah, so you must be right about this.
I hope I'm right, because
Mhm.
my information may be quite outdated. I haven't been withdrawing cash very frequently. Even if I were to withdraw cash,
Mm,
it's always that same few ATM that I frequent. Yeah,
okay,
and I
okay.
agree that PayWave, right, is really my favorite payment method. You
Right.
literally just tap the card. So sometimes it really does irk me when you have to pay by cash and nets. So pre-COVID period, I think people would be okay with it, but now with COVID,
Right.
everyone is like so scared of like not scared, worried of touching like
Yeah.
surfaces, and vendors have to disinfect the surface. Do everyone a favor, PayWave, guys. Okay, too ambitious. Uh,
No, I don't think it's too ambitious. I think it should be mandated. Like, if this were written into the law, okay, I understand the nuances. I understand the existence of service fees. But surely, as a business, however small you are, you can find the balance between having the service fee and you can weigh it against, like, now it is a bit more convenient to pay for your goods and services, and hence you can increase your sales from there. Your volume of sales will increase, and that is a measurable thing. And also, if the service fee is eating into your revenue, then you have to mark up your products, right? I mean, I know that stuff like this is what drives up inflation and all, but it is the process of the economy. And I don't see any counterpoint as valid enough to not carry nets or virtual payments because basically the barrier of entry is really none now. And for the best experience of your customer, you need to provide them with this payment. If not, it can really come as a rude shock, because I have a few friends who unintentionally have stopped carrying cash around on their body. So they leave the house without cash, which I think is still a very stupid thing to do today. But some people are already doing that now. Yeah.
Yes, I've met friends that completely don't use cash for any payment really. So it's to the extent that some are so extreme, to the extent that if that shop only requires cash payment, they
Right.
will not even frequent that shop anymore.
Yeah, so it kind of becomes like a boycott, right? So it's not an intentional boycott lah, but it's just a personal like, oh, I can't pay there. It doesn't carry any payment method that I have. So you see, shouldn't businesses, however small they are, start to look into this as a void in their market? They have to target these customers lah that are otherwise avoiding their business because they have no means to pay. Yeah, so this is important. If you're a small business enterprise, you need to think about this.
That's true, that's true. But I feel it still comes down to what products are you selling. So if you're selling certain products such that to cover the service fee and you mark up their products,
Mm,
it doesn't make sense. You will also lose business because,
right, right.
other places that are selling similar products as you will not face this issue. Oh my gosh, this is coming down to the economies of scales.
Which you are qualified to talk about. Yeah, but I understand. I understand the specific problems that everyone is facing, but I'm just coming from a purely customer-centric point of view. I want a good, seamless experience where I don't have to count my coins. And in this country, we don't have to manually add in the tax or the service charge. But
Yes.
if we live in America or somewhere, we still have to calculate the tips and everything. Oh, it's such a hassle. Just credit card everything, debit card everything. All right.
Yes, exactly. Wow. Okay, it's pretty blessed that we really don't have to calculate the tax and we don't have like, any tipping culture here, thank God. Yeah, but from a consumer point of view, I do agree that personally, I really don't like paying in cash. And
Mhm.
actually, in the long term view, right, I still believe that businesses should move away from cash in the long term
Yes.
perspective. Perhaps not now, but in the future, yeah, cashless is the way to go.
I want it now. Write it into the law now. Like, get rid of this stupid paper and metal that's like flying around. Oh, so unsanitary. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm very extremist.
No, no, just very, very opinionated, very opinionated.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah, but
definitely.
I do agree with you. Yes. Any other? I just wanted to ask any other rants.
Not really. So actually, this is all that we have planned to talk about for this episode. Do you have anything else to add on?
No, no. For me, I'm pretty excited about our third podcast. Now that
Mm,
we just had a general sensing of the third, where the direction of our third podcast.
mm.
So pretty excited for that. Any other last final thoughts that you would like to share?
No, that's about it. Oh, but I did realize during the recording of this episode 2, there's a lot of traffic outside. So you might have heard like a lot of trucks and buses, and I'm not sure how much I will be able to edit everything out, but yeah, this is a free podcast.
No worries. Actually, I didn't hear any from my end.
That's great. If there ends up that there isn't any noise, then I will edit this part out.
This podcast may not have as much content as the first one,
Mhm.
partially because I wasn't prepared enough.
No, no, don't
But
worry.
I hope.
Okay, don't worry about it at all. It's really a casual conversation. Yeah, actually not supposed to prepare. Yeah, so I think for the first episode, both of us over prepared. Yeah, but it's supposed to be casual, so don't worry about it. Yeah, it's supposed to be
Okay.
natural, authentic, and if it's too scripted, right, it's also not very fun to listen to. Yeah, so don't worry. Yeah,
Okay,
don't worry at
okay.
all.
All right, okay.
I
Yeah, I just
understand
wanted
what
a
you're
safe.
saying, lah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Don't worry.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just a bit. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
But
okay.
definitely
But yeah.
don't feel the need to prepare too much for the third episode as well, because really it's not worth lah. And then like we talk all over the place also, it's not guaranteed that you'll hit all your points. And I didn't hit all my points also. Yeah, it's very okay one. Don't need to prepare so much. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Don't
Thank you for
worry.
encouraging. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, with that, I got no thoughts. Nothing to add on.
No thoughts hit empty. Okay. Thank you for this conversation, Hazel. It's been nice talking with you. We'll see you when the
Yes,
next
thank
episode.
you, Vale.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to me too about my rants.
Happy to do so.
All right, go and have a good rest. And I'll see you again
Yes,
next
have a good
time.
rest.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.